Hello, my friend. Welcome to the Money is Emotional podcast. I am your host, Christine Luken. Today's episode is the future of female friendships. And it's a little different because I'm not interviewing my guest. I'm inviting you into our conversation. Nicole Olsthoorn and I recently experienced something that many friendships don't survive. There were misunderstandings. There were emotional triggers. There were hurt feelings. And instead of avoiding each other, gossiping, or quietly walking away, we chose curiosity, personal responsibility, and honest conversation. What happened and the way we handled it has actually made our friendship stronger. And we realized this isn't just about us. It's about the future of female friendship and female leadership. Before we dive into our discussion, allow me to introduce you to my fabulous friend, Nicole. Nicole Olsthoorn, aka the Celtic Goddess, is a high priestess, a seer and channel, and an expert in creating sacred spaces. She uses her spiritual gifts to guide ambitious, soul-led female founders and leading ladies into the reclamation of their feminine intuition, power, and leadership through online and in-person rites, rituals, and ceremonies that elevate and transform instantly. Nicole believes that women are the catalyst for the evolution of humanity and that the world isn't collapsing. She is emerging. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here already. Thank you for that beautiful introduction as well.
No, you're most welcome. Well, I think we should start at the beginning. Let's tell everyone what actually happened. No filters, no cleaning it up. It all started with the voice message you sent me on Facebook. So why don't you tell our listeners the gist of what was in that message and why you sent it to me?
Yeah. So, it actually started with you launching your beautiful offer, the Merchant Priestess Path, because as a priestess, I was like, I want to know more about that. So I signed up on your waiting list and I received those emails. And then the beautiful first email came in which you share your tagline, and it's 1 foot in the marketplace and 1 foot in the temple. Am I correct? Yeah.
Yes.
So reading that and seeing that on my screen, like something shifted in me. I was like, wow, I love that. I love how she has formulated that. And so something that I do sometimes when I see a sentence like that really inspires me is I'm like, how would I do that? How would I fill that in with what I bring to my people? And I came up with an alternative for that, I basically used your sentence, but I filled in my words. That's just what happened. And instead of taking that and quietly walking away and perhaps using it or not, I wasn't sure about that yet. And then just later on, you might have seen my landing page and said, dang, she's copied that for me. I don't want to do that, you see, because I'm all about truth and transparency and honesty. So instead of doing that, and I have to say, I wasn't even sure if I was going to use it, but I always, right, when I have that moment of inspiration, I say, I just need to be honest about this. So I messaged you saying, listen, this just inspired me. This is an alternative wording that I came up for myself and for my things. I would really I love this. I love playing around with this. And I'm not sure if I asked you if you were okay with that or if I just assumed that you were, which is really quite arrogant of me.
I think you said, I hope you're okay with this. I think
hope
that's what
you're
you
okay
said.
with that. There you go. Yes. But yeah, to be really truly honest, I didn't think you wouldn't be okay with that. So that's just really honest. But then at the same time, I sent that message because I wanted to give you the opportunity to say that you weren't okay with it. And that is really, it's how I operate in all of my connection and friendships. As soon as something comes to, I feel inspired, but where's the line between inspiration or copyright or all the things? I want to just open a conversation and check. So that's what happened.
Yeah. And when I got your message, you said, oh my gosh, I love everything about this. And you were so positive and so upbeat. And you said, I've looked at the sales page. It's so inspiring. I know I signed up for the waiting list. I don't think this is for me. And reading this tagline just inspired something in me. And, I'm thinking, I've got this offer that I know I'm launching and I've been wrestling with a name. And then you said, maybe it's going to be the Celtic priestess path. And, you know, I, I'd love to use your formula for my tagline, like 1 foot on the earth and 1 foot in the temple. And I'm just like, and you're like, I hope that's okay. And good luck with everything. And so, it was just like, I had all these mixed feelings because you were so positive and you were so complimentary. And yet it was like, I felt like you were also taking something from me and saying, like, I hope this is okay. And so I know whenever I feel things like that I just need to stop and sit with things for a while. And so it honestly felt like, let's just say I owned a floral shop and you walked into my floral shop and I had all these beautiful arrangements and you're like, oh my God, these arrangements are gorgeous. I love these. These are so pretty. I'm not going to buy one, but I'm going to take a flower from over here and a flower from over here and a flower from over here. And I'm going to go create something with these flowers. And I'm just like, okay, like, I don't know that I'm okay with that.
Yes.
And it was just like, it wasn't malicious, right?
No.
And, I have had people rip my stuff off. I mean, I have had people bootleg digital copies of my books and have them on, websites where you have to pay, $5 a month to get access to them, where like I'm getting nothing. I've had people rip off courses. I've had other financial coaches connect with me, and then 3 days later, I start seeing posts that look exactly like mine. So I've had this happen in business before, but it's just like when you said those words, it was like you meant it to feel flattering, but to me, it felt like a little too close for comfort.
A little too close to hope.
Yes.
For comfort.
I know, so my first thought, it was like, hey, wait a minute, like, that's mine. That feels like a little too similar. And it was like I could feel my human self and my higher self at war with each other, right? Because my higher self knows we are all one. We are all inspired from the same divine source. You and I want to help women become fully expressed, to unleash their power so that we can all serve humanity at the highest level. You're doing it primarily from a spiritual, ceremonial space. I'm doing it primarily from a financial space, but now I'm bringing the spirituality into it. And, we're friends. We've actually bought things from each other. You were in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. I've bought some of your offers. And, we've been friends due to the different spaces we're in on Facebook for quite a few years now. So it definitely felt different from some financial coach who I don't know is like stealing my posts.
Stuff.
Right. Like it definitely felt different from that. So it's like I could feel my higher self saying, like, it doesn't matter. We're all helping women. She's helping different women from you. It doesn't matter. And yet there was something in my human self that was just like, no, this is
one thing though, because to me, and this is the thing with different perspectives, and this is why it's so important to just fully open a conversation about these things in any kind of friendship. Like, to me, it almost felt like I struggled with finding the right name for this offer, and it just didn't want to land. And then I saw your page, and I felt a call to look at that page, and I instantly knew when I was reading, it's like, no, I don't. This is not for me. It is not for me to step into. But this really inspires me. So for me, that felt like the Great Mother Goddess had just placed that on my pot, saying, here you go, take inspiration from that because it can help you bring forward the work that you do. So that's with that energy, I literally messaged you saying, oh my goodness, this is so great. Thank you. Not for a moment did I think about like ripping your work or anything. But yeah, and then you decided, because you needed some time to think about it and to let it land. And then I think it was 2 or 3 days later that you came back to me.
Yeah.
saying, actually, this is not right. And then by then, I had already moved on and decided not even to use it.
Which is hilarious because,
Yeah.
I took a full 24 hours. So while I am doing this emotional labor over this situation, you'd already decided, like, that's good, but that's not quite for me anyway, so I'm just going to move on to something else. And here I am still, like, ruminating over it, which, how many times does that happen in relationships? Like, all the time.
All the time.
Yes, but I am glad that I sat with it. And, I did take the situation to a trusted friend. And one of the things that she said is, could there be an unresolved situation from the past, especially from your childhood, that might be amplifying these feelings? And so I sat with that, and a situation did come forward. And so this was probably around age, 8 or 9. We had moved from New York to Pennsylvania. So we only lived in Pennsylvania for not even 2 years. And then we moved here to Kentucky, just outside of Cincinnati, where I've been since since I was 10 years old. But I had a friend in Pennsylvania. We lived in the same neighborhood, and she would steal things from me. Small things. It's like I would notice, little trinket type stuff that you have when you're, 8 or 9 years old, where I would see them, either, we used to have like these little pencil boxes where you'd keep, your pens and your erasers, and like I would see like the rainbow eraser that I used to have, and then I'd go back home and be like, oh my God, my rainbow eraser's gone. Like I didn't even realize it was gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, she took it from me. And, there were a few little things like that, and I never addressed it. But then there was one thing that I just couldn't tolerate. So 80s kids will remember E.T., the movie E.T., and E.T. was eating the Reese's Pieces candy. So back when the movie was out and, was getting its blockbuster status, the big bags of Reese's Pieces came with an E.T. holographic sticker. So back then, like, that was super special. It was a very big sticker, and, when you kind of reflected it, you could see the rainbow in it. Like, it was so cool. It was my prized sticker. So I remember being at this birthday party, and we had all brought our sticker books to, show off our stickers to each other, because that's what girls did in the 80s. And I was flipping through because I wanted to show one of my friends this sticker, and I flipped to the page, and there's this big white space where the ET sticker used to be.
I can still, as you're saying that, I can literally feel your disappointment in my body going, oh, no.
Yes, because I begged my mom to buy the big bag of candy so that we could get it, because normally she did not buy the big bags of candy. You got the little bags of candy. And I didn't even want the candy. I wanted the sticker. So several days later, I was sleeping over at her house, and I saw her sticker book, and I flipped through it, and there was the sticker. And I knew it was the sticker because the edge was all crinkled up a little bit, because I was upset when I got it out of the bag. I'm a Capricorn. I'm a perfectionist. I am a type A personality. The sticker wasn't perfect, and I was not happy about that when I got it. And my mom's like, too bad. This is the only ET sticker you were getting. So rather than confront her, what I did was I stole it back from her. I stole the sticker back from her. I didn't say anything. I put it back in my sticker book, put my sticker book under my pillow. And then later on that evening, we went to bed, and, she thought I was sleeping, and I heard her get up, and I could hear her out in the living room talking to her mom. And she told her mom that I stole her sticker. And I so upset. I cried myself to sleep, because I'm like, I am the one who was wronged here. I was just taking back what was rightfully mine. And now my friend's mom thinks that I'm a thief. So when I went home the next day, I told my mom everything. I was so upset. I'm sure my mother was like, Jesus Christ, it's a sticker, honey.
Yeah.
I'll get you, don't worry about it. And it's like, I felt like I wanted my name cleared with my friend's mom, and I was all upset about the whole thing. But the problem was, I had never confronted my friend. about this. And so in reflecting on that situation, I was like, okay, yes, this definitely brought up something from the past. So I've been really reading through the book, The Untethered Soul, which I believe you have read as well. And in the book, Michael Singer talks about how like 95% of the time when you get emotionally upset about a situation that is in front of you right now, it's because it is irritating something from the past that you have never allowed to come forward. So whenever we resist a situation, we store that pain in our soul. And then when a similar situation comes up, it's not just the situation itself, it's that past situation that we have never resolved. So in having that clear picture, 24 hours later, I was able to come back to you and just be very honest with you and say, hey, when I heard your message, I had mixed feelings because, you were so excited about the offering and so complimentary of it. And I also felt like you naming your program this felt too close for comfort for me. And I know because of past situations that I am not good at standing up for myself. And I have a tendency to want to avoid confrontation. And so it's important for me to tell you that this does bother me, and I really hope that you don't use it. Now, obviously, I can't make you not use it, and then you received my message, and let's talk about how you received it, how you reacted to it.
Two ways. And first of all, can I just add to that story? Because obviously, it sounds like just a sticker, but for a little girl, it's like the whole world, isn't it? So it's massive. But two things came up for me. So the first thing was, okay, well, I'm going to be gracious about this. And if this is bothering you, then let's have a conversation about what feels right for you and what doesn't. Okay, the Celtic priestess path might be too close for comfort, but can I use something like the Celtic priestess? Because that, there's also an element of words that are just being used in general language, and
Right.
Where do you draw the line? So that's one. But then the second thing is that my personal thing came up as well. And I have a story a story, and from that, this limiting belief came up that whenever I share my joy, unbridled, unfiltered, just excited the way I did with you, it's dangerous for other people and I'm going to hurt other people. So that's a story that got triggered within me. So when you messaged that saying, actually, I'm not okay with that, I had to sit with that and think, dang, here it is. I'm sharing my joy, completely innocent and unaware of anything that's happening on the other side. And I hurt someone who I really do not want to hurt. And then I actually meant to give you a compliment. Instead, I hurt you. And so that's something that I had to sit with as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dare to enter the Wealthy Woman Book Club, where answers exist to forbidden questions, where women of all ages and income secretly gather, where knowledge is shared, where possibilities are explored, where women claim their power. Dare to stay a spell in the Wealthy Woman Book Club. In this place, we lift each other up. In this place, we start dreaming again. In this place, we see financial miracles. In this place, we grow through the glory and the failure. In this place, we step into a new identity. Dare to champion the Wealthy Woman Book Club. We're creating a future where women are financially empowered across the globe. We're creating a future where our daughters stand on equal financial footing with our sons. We're creating a future where we purchase with our principles rather than price tags. We're creating a future where we use the power of money for the benefit of people and the planet. Welcome to the Wealthy Woman Book Club. Dare to come in, woman. Come in. Join us at wealthywomanbookclub.com.
Well, and in my response to you, I said, it's not your joy that hurt me.
No,
And
exactly.
your joy is one of the things that I love about you. And I said, it would have been totally different if, you weren't joyful and complimentary of my offer. If you just said like, hey, thanks for the invite to your thing. I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to use part of the name for this. Like that would have been, I would have had less mixed feelings about that, to be sure. Would have had very clear feelings like, no, I don't think so.
No, not gonna happen. Yeah. But I think the most important thing here is that I then decided to share that with you as well. So
Yes.
I've been very open to you saying, okay, I've got two things coming up. At one hand, I know that we have to have a conversation, leader to leader, woman to woman, business owner to business owner about what feels acceptable and what doesn't. And then there's this story. It's like, I did not mean to hurt you with my joy. And I'm glad you said it's not your joy. Because I'm like, hey, this is fun. Let's go. And like, actually, no, let's not do that. And I have been told to dim down my joy quite often and dim down my voice. I think this is a common theme among a lot of women who speak up and share their voices, is to be told to be quiet down.
Yeah.
In one way
Well,
or
and that
another.
was the last thing I wanted to do, because we as
exactly.
women, we do need to bring, our full selves, our full voices. The last thing we need to be doing is toning ourselves down and dimming our light. Like that is not what we need to be doing.
No.
And, just the fact that you were emotionally mature enough to receive that, to do your own reflection before, coming back and saying, hey, I've actually already decided that I'm not going to use that tagline, but I realize I never came back to tell you
that. That's another thing. Yeah, I never actually did that. That's another lesson I learned from this, is to then, because I have a tendency, I say something and I can move on very quickly. This is something I get back from my friends as well, is I share something or something I'm struggling with myself and I share it with them and then they want to help me. I'm like, actually, I've already done it. I'm already 2 steps further. And like, oh, great, thanks. So they know that.
That's part of your processing, right? It's just like hearing myself say it, then I'm like, okay, now I know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm also a 3-line in human design. I need to like experience things. So even this conversation we had, for me to express this saying, oh, I love your tagline, like what would be my version of that? That's like me experiencing or playing with the words, but then not ending up using it. So I'm glad I ended up not using it, that it didn't feel right, because it would have been a completely different conversation otherwise in terms of trademarks and business and all those things. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, here's the thing. As far as those official things with trademarks, yes, I am going to trademark Merchant Priestess, but the tagline, I was not going to trademark. I don't know if I will. So, like technically from the surface perspective, first of all, you've always used the Celtic Priestess a lot. So, I mean, you could have even come to me and said, well, now you're calling yourself the Merchant Priestess. I kind of feel like you're copying me, right?
Yeah. I did think about that, because I had an offer, the priestess path, and you've been in that one, and so I thought, okay, so, but then I could have come to you and said, have you been sealing that for me? But I also understand that the priestess path, it's like it's such a general use, right?
Yeah.
It's just almost impossible to say who is copying whom.
Right. It's like hamburgers and French fries, right? Except for in the spiritual world.
Exactly. And I want to just correct you, because I have not been using the Celtic Priestess, but I have been using the Celtic Goddess a lot. And I also remember in our conversation when I shared that with you, that you had all the tingles and all the vibes happening and going on. And I've been sitting with that, because the Celtic Goddess is actually a name that came to me. I don't think we have time for the whole story, but it's been with me for a long time. I have been using it, and it's kind of slid away to the back. And now, because of our conversation, I have now been asking myself, do I have to reintroduce that again? Do I have to bring that back again? So, this is why we have conversations, because there is growth and development happening on both sides. And it's just, if no one opens the conversation, this won't be happening, and we will not be evolving as humans, as women, as humanity. And it's so
Yeah.
important that we do that.
Yeah. Well, and that Celtic goddess was something that came through in a very, like spiritual. There was a very spiritual experience where that name was revealed to you in the same way that the merchant priestess was revealed to me through an Akashic Records reading with a woman who I met out in Sedona who has very strong ties to Egypt. So, and there's that whole thing about divine inspiration too, because I was, after this situation was resolved, I was talking with another woman, and she said that, she was in an online mentorship group, some kind of group container, coaching container, and she was going to launch her podcast. She had been working on it for several months. And 2 weeks before she was going to launch, someone in that container launched a podcast with the exact same name. And she had never said the name. She had never said the name in that. So the other woman didn't know that she was going to call it that. So sometimes it is the divine inspiration that comes in, and, multiple people can receive that. And is it just like,
exactly,
the first person to market wins? And obviously, when we're talking about the 3D world, especially with trademarks, that is what it is. If you are the first one to market using that and you can prove it, then, you can either contest the trademark that someone's applying for, or, you secure the trademark. So it's like we're kind of moving between these two worlds here, right? Of the 3D and the 5D.
Yeah.
And, that's really what it is, right? We have one foot in the temple, one foot in the marketplace, or one foot on the earth, right? This is literally the world we are living in right now.
Yeah.
And so, as we talk about the future of female friendships and having, conscious friendships, because here's the thing. Just because we're more conscious and more spiritual, it doesn't mean that these things aren't going to come up. They might even come up. Honestly, I think they're probably going to come up more often because they need to be healed on the individual level and the collective level. So, as I was thinking through our whole conversation and where this landed, where you basically said, I'd already decided I'm not going to use this. I'm thinking about the Celtic goddess. And as soon as you said the Celtic goddess, I was like, ooh, tell me more about that, right? And then, in our exchanges, I said, I think people would really get a lot out of hearing how we processed this and how we handled this in such an emotionally mature way, because we were willing to do the emotional labor of working through those triggers, of understanding the other person's perspective. And I said, what are some steps that people can take in these when they encounter these things? Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, I think the first thing is assuming good intentions. Like starting with the belief that the person you care about is not trying to hurt you. And I think that assumption changes the entire trajectory and energy of the conversation that happens after that.
Yeah, it's being innocent until proven otherwise, is it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
Basically.
and so yeah, I was like, okay, Nicole is my friend. We've been in each other's spaces. I'm not going to assume that she's trying to hurt me by doing this. And I also feel hurt. Like, those two things can both be true.
Yeah.
And so the second step was being reflective and not reactive. So one of the things that I try to do whenever possible is give myself 24 hours. So I also know that, even though my female cycle has shut down, the baby factory is closed, I still track my energy cycle. So I still have an ebb and flow of energy. And so when this situation happened, I was in my water week. And that is typically the PMS week, right? Where I can feel overly emotional when certain things are happening or not happening. The emotions are magnified. Physically, I'm usually feeling a little more tired. So I also knew that that was going on.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I gave myself some space. So when I received your message, I did not speak off the cuff. I didn't fire off a response in my hurt feelings. I sat with it for 24 hours, and I also planned the conversation before I had it.
Mm.
And one of the most important things that I think people need to do in a situation like this is, and this is something that I learned from our mentor, Melanie Ann Layer, is what is the outcome that I want from this conversation? And so the outcome ultimately was I did not want you to use that tagline. And so I needed to communicate that in a thoughtful, loving way. And so, I really needed to sit with myself, process through all those feelings and, not bring my hurt 8-year-old self feeling like you just stole my ET sticker and be like, no, that's mine, right? Because that's the energy that we come from if we're not able to isolate where those feelings started from. So, and I think this is one of the greatest gifts that we can give any relationship is resisting the urge to react immediately in the moment.
Yeah.
Not because we're avoiding the conversation, but because we're preparing to have a better one.
Yes. Well, you say, but I was going to say, you're not avoiding the conversation. You're actually honoring the conversation. Because the fact that you took those 24 hours, in those 24 hours, I already decided not to use it. And so if you would have not done that, if you would have not honored that, we would have become much more in a battlefield because then I would not have been able to feel more deeply into me saying, okay, do I not want to use this because I know Christine doesn't want to use it, don't want me to do that? Or is it because it really doesn't feel aligned for me? So
Right.
then you have a whole different conversation. And it's one of the things that I had to learn is to claim that time and that space whenever I feel hurt and triggered is if I can, if I need to, even say, thank you for sharing that. I will come back to you within 24 hours or I'll come back to you later this week. Is to give myself the time to process. It's so important.
Yeah. But I know that if I had taken more than 24 hours, if I had pushed that out 3 or 4 days, I would have been avoiding the issue. So,
Yeah.
So I know that's a tendency for me. And for other people, that may not be the case. I have a tendency to avoid. Now, other people, waiting 24 hours might be super hard for them.
Yeah.
Right? For them, it might feel like torture just to wait 12 hours. So you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing we both did was, we got curious before we got certain. Instead of me saying, I know why she did that, I was like, I wonder what's motivating that. Or, rather than assuming I understood your motives, not only did I get curious about my reaction, I was also like, I wonder how she came to that conclusion. And by getting curious, I left the door open for you to explain yourself and for me to fully hear your explanation.
Yeah.
And I think that is super important.
Yeah.
And of course, each of us owned our triggers, which is important. Because when I've heard people say, like, I avoid people who trigger me, and I don't necessarily, you can't really do that, first of all, because you spend your whole entire life trying to protect yourself from the outside world rather than allowing yourself to just feel things and flow through you. Because triggers aren't evidence that somebody else is wrong. It's an invitation for us to understand why that trigger is happening.
Yes, I think what people mean when they say that is they want to preserve their peace and their energy, which I totally, agree with. But I've learned that you hold your peace by actually facing what triggers you and then using your voice to communicate that.
Yeah. Yes.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, and, the fifth and most important thing that we did was repair the relationship quickly because, healthy friendships aren't built by never hurting one another. It's going to happen. they're built by us being willing to come back together with love, honesty, and humility, which I think is rare. I mean, the online world is the Wild West right now, especially in the coaching world. There is a lot of gossiping, backstabbing, all kinds of nonsense and immaturity that's going on. And so we want to be that alternative, right? Like,
let it be an example that things can be different.
exactly, because we know what feeds the algorithm on social media. It's emotional triggers and anger and fighting. So let's get out there and spread the peace and the joy and the coming together and collaboration instead of competition. So,
Yeah.
and, you know, especially when money and business are in the mix with friendships, I think there's even more opportunity for misunderstandings and more opportunity for us to use this framework to have these important conversations. And, you know, you're not necessarily always going to get the result that you want. However, if you avoid the conversations or you just go gossip about the other person, then you're definitely not going to get a favorable outcome. That's for certain.
No. No, you're not. It's I have these kind of conversations with a lot of women in my world. I feel very blessed to be surrounded by friends who are mature enough to have these kind of conversations. And I really think that, like you beautifully said it in the title, it's the future of feminine friendships. We have to have these conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, and can I also just say, I know you just kind of put it in there, but for you to still be aware of your energetic cycle and understanding where you are in that one, I mean, that is such a huge, huge piece to take with us as women.
Yeah.
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 Incredible.
Maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that on a future episode, which, yeah, we'll see.
Who knows?
Well, the future of female friendships, we know it's not conflict free, but it can be rich with repair when we come at it with love, with honesty, with humility. I mean, it's women like us who are brave enough to choose connection and sometimes that awkwardness over being right, of choosing love over ego. And that's the kind of friendship worth building. And I'm glad you're my friend.
I'm glad you're my friend too. Thank you. Also, Christine, can I give you one more compliment?
Yes,
Because
please.
it was you who said, I really feel that we need to have this conversation on the podcast.
Yeah.
So it also takes a special person to then say, let's bring this conversation to the world. So thank you for allowing me to do that as well and for sharing this. I think it's incredible. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, Nicole, I love you. And thank you so much for showing up for this conversation where we modeled the future of female friendships.
My pleasure.
Well, listeners, my friends, this is where I leave you for today. If you enjoyed this conversation, please leave us a review because it helps others to find the Money is Emotional podcast. And if you're not a subscriber yet, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, this is Christine Luken, the Merchant Priestess, reminding you that you're good enough, you're powerful enough, and gosh darn it, people love you, including me. Bye for now.